Sure, turning off office.
There we go. Welcome back to 2021. It's Andrew Pitchford and The Morning Kick, courtesy of your digital marketing partners, Excite Media. Well, we thought we'd start off with a great story to tell you about one of our clients. Richard Stanton has been working with Excite Media for a number of years. I think it's about 4.5, 5 years now. And we've been pleased to get to know him and his business down in Newcastle and up and down the East Coast, working in the property side of things. And Richard, thanks very much for joining us on The Morning Kick. Welcome and good morning.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Good morning to you too.
Well, it's really good to have you on the show.
Looking out on the river, and it's pouring, so I'm not sure what it's like up in Brizzy.
As always, sunshine, a little bit of a change every now and again. It'll be warm in the afternoon and we'll be paying the price for it. In fact, I just had to laugh. I just had to turn the aircon on at this time in the morning and turn it off again in time for the show. Richard, we want to get to know about yourself and also about Kapalua, the business that you've built. But let's kind of rewind the clock a little bit. And you and I have got a few years on a few people. And I guess there's a story that started somewhere. You got into property fairly early. Was it something that was attracting you at a school age? Or where did you find that magnetism to get involved in that side of the business?
It's a funny story, I guess. I was a golfer. My brother was a professional golfer, and golf was in our family. So I played at the local club, and the president of my golf club happened to be in real estate. And I was looking for a job in that second final year of real estate over the Christmas break. And I said, have you got a job over Christmas? And he said, look, I don't, but at the end of next year, I'm going to have a full-time cadetship if you're interested. And I didn't really have any plans, as I thought I was going to go to uni and find my way, but the urge to start earning $1 was great. So I said, yeah, look, I'll start at the end of the following year. And so I went through the final year of high school knowing I had a job lined up in November, which is how I got into the property game. So it was really by accident.
And that kind of steered you through a variety of positions. I understand that you're working with one of the second oldest property companies in the country. Tell us about that.
Well, from Sydney, I started my career in Sydney, and I worked 5 years there. Then I moved to Newcastle, which everyone said at the time, why are you moving to Newcastle? It's a dirty city, steel industry, coal, blah, blah, blah. But they're from people who had never been to Newcastle. Newcastle is a fabulous city. And over the last, I guess, 30, 40 years, it's been a city that's transformed. So it was a good move. And when I came to Newcastle, I worked for a couple of firms, and then I started my own business, which was not a great experience. I went into business with a person that was much older than me. I worked very hard, but he didn't. So I ended up, I got out of that business with the skin of my teeth, thank God. And then about 3 or so years later, I bought into a business that was called Career in Berkeley, and it was the second oldest agency in the country. So it was established in 1872. And when I bought into that, or when we changed our name to that, in fact, they were in the bottom rung of the real estate agency in Newcastle. Just how it happened, a friend of mine, his history was with that company, so we decided to trade under that name. So that's where the Career in Berkeley started, and then we took it from that level to one of the top agencies in the city. Over a period of, that was 84. And I got out of Career in Berkeley, or Career Property at the time, in 2000, January 15. So over that period, we went from the bottom to the top. So that was an interesting, experience through all different markets, of course.
We were talking just a little while ago about business can have its ups and its downs, but today we wanted to talk about building dreams. And those early stages, did you find that there was something attractive about the idea of the property development side as opposed to the sales side? What kind of steered you in that direction?
Well, again, my history with real estate was in general real estate with, sales, listings, property management, the usual sort of agency practice. But then in the late 80s, I became involved with a public company at the time called Industrial Equity, Sir Ronald Riley, and they had some land up in Newcastle that I'd been talking to them about for several years. And we launched that land. It was called Lakelands, and it was around a 500 lot subdivision. So that gave me a real taste for the development game. So for me, the attraction was you had one client with hundreds of listings, So to me, that was very efficient. I had to have one conversation to discuss several listings. It wasn't like one listing and one vendor as the normal real estate game is. But it was also the fact that it was brand new and you were creating something that attracted me. So in my agency practice, I ended up slotting over to specialise in that area, which I did from the late 80s. And that's all I did from that point forward, right to today.
Did you find that very quickly you had to start putting systems and things in place? What were the early days like in getting this off the ground? Because we want to talk about Kapalua, but you weren't Kapalua at that point.
No, I wasn't. And I got introduced to systems thinking with a book called The E-Myth by Dr. Michael Gerber. And I certainly recommend it to anyone that hasn't read it. It's sort of about McDonaldizing your business. So if you do something more than once, put a system behind it so that it happens the same way every time. And so I read that book in 1992 at Ayers Rock. I was at a conference. And from that moment, I always looked at my business. How can we systemize? How can we make sure it happens each and every time? And I've really run my business with that way since that time.
So tell us about the move into Kapalua. At what point did that come along? Because I know there's a little bit of backstory on the name of the business as well. Can you tell us something about that?
Well, you don't often start a new business, like it was January 15, so we just celebrated our 6th birthday. You don't sort of start a brand new business at, the age bracket that you're talking about earlier. Normally you're sort of thinking, just be safe and stay where I was. And look, I had a very good income and it was almost a set and forget thing, but it didn't allow me to be inspired and passionate and motivated with what I was doing. I wanted to get away and do something on my own. I was in a partnership at the time and they were great boys, but I just felt it was time to do something on my own. And Kelly Quinn, who I was working with, we sat down and said, look, let's do this thing on our own. It was a bit of a leap of faith, but I had confidence in Kelly and she had confidence in me and we had confidence in our relationship with our clients. So we decided we'd just start, for the blank page, which from looking back on it, you don't realise you have a creative side of you. So when you start with a blank page, you can say, well, what am I going to call it? What colours are we going to have? How are we going to build this business? What structure we're going to have without working within the confines of an established business that's very hard to turn that ship around, if you know what I mean.
Richard, let's have, for anybody that's interested, you can actually get hold of the E-Myth book. In fact, there's the E-Myth Revisited. So if you're looking at being able to find it, this is the book.
Yep.
E-Myth with Dr. Michael E. Gerber, and there's the revisited version. So check it out at your local bookstore, get inspired. It's interesting, as you say, it's surprising that it was 1992, but it certainly affected a lot of businesses. Now, another thing that we just want to very quickly have a look at is the Kapalua website. So if you're interested in knowing more about the Kapalua story and exactly what we're talking about with Richard Stanton today, have a look at kapalua.com.au. Where did the name come from?
Look, I love the story of the name. As I said earlier, golf is in my family. And in 1992, when I was at Ayers Rock, I met became a good friend of mine called Rod Cartledge. He had a passion for golf and he was a very successful businessman. So we struck a deal and he said, would you teach me how to play golf? And I said, yes, will you teach me how to make money? And we struck that deal, and each year we travelled to Hawaii playing golf. He wanted to be challenged. Golf in Hawaii is like playing golf at Disneyland, I tell people. It's just the most amazing place to play golf. It's just, visual scenery is amazing. There's challenging courses. We played off the back tees. He lost hundreds of golf balls, but he learned how to play. So we went 12 years in a row, and we always played at a place called Kapalua, and Kapalua is on the north shore of Maui. It's where they play one of the major golf tournaments on the US PGA Tour. So I always liked that name, and I formed a company, a few years back called Kapalua because I like associating companies with places I've been. And so when we started in January, I had this company and I thought, you know what, we'll call it Kapalua. And people still struggle with the name Kapalua, they just don't know how to do it. But of course, once you know it, it's so easy. One of my major clients says to me as a joke quite regularly, you can still change your name, instead of that stupid name you've got. But now in our town, and in many other places, Kapalua has become quite well known, which is a great story. I love that story.
Yeah, I certainly do as well. And I think it's actually got a really nice ring to it. There's a little bit of magic behind the name. And I like the fact that you are creating things. One of the things that blows me away is when you look at the Kapalua website and you go through the number of property developments that you're working on. There's over 20 here. How do you keep track of looking at all of these creative investments of your time and energy? Each one must have peculiarities that you've really got to be able to look after the details on.
Well, we have good systems, thanks to Michael Gerber. And you're right to coordinate. I mean, there's so many moving parts with the development because we're involved from the concept stage. When someone purchases a block of land and thinks they want to do a development, we advise on what type of development, 2-story, single-story, apartments, townhouses, how many bedrooms, how many garages, all that sort of thing. We do that. Then we work with the architects on the actual planning. Then, the DA is approved by council. Then we go to work to build up the marketing of all those projects, like all those renders you see on the website you're just showing, Andrew. That we create all those with our partners. We have a very, very strong commitment to only the best renders. You won't see any variation in our website with, basically cheap renderers from Russia or one of these things that people do. We just don't do that. We'd rather not do the project because everything needs to look great on the website. And we know it translates into extra income for the developer and extra profit for the developer if he does that investment up front. And then, of course, from the marketing, we roll into the sales, and that's no easy feat. So getting sales off the plan, 100% of our sales are all off the plan. We don't have anything built and then we go sell it. We don't do any of that. So everything's off the plan. And to do that, you need a certain skill level, which we developed over the years. And then we follow those sales and the construction. We monitor that all the way through to settlement when we give the keys to the purchaser. So it's a long process. It's an 18-month process from start to finish, at a minimum pretty much. So that's a long time to stay focused on something. And of course, you've got overlaps of different projects starting at different times. So we've got projects in all different stages of development, from startups to settlements.
Richard, we're starting to work with you on a new project with one of your business partners at the moment. How do these people come to you to look at a project? Do they have the land, but they're looking for somebody to optimize it? Or are they looking for somebody to choose the land and then optimize it?
Well, that's an existing client, so they'd already secured the land. It's a very, very big project. But we get the other spectrum where the people come to us and say, look, we want to do something. It's not really our gig to go and find land. We just don't have the time, and it's quite a tiresome task to do that. So we say that's your job, to go and find the land by trolling through the websites and seeing what they can come up with. Our forte is when they've secured something to say, right, I've found something. Will this project work? So that's where we start to come into our own.
Tell us about how 2020 affected your business. COVID was kind of making people dodge to the left and dodge to the right. Did it have an impact either early or through the year on how Kapalua operated?
One of the advantages of being a certain age group, Andrew, is you have been through the ups and downs. When you're younger, you've seen tough times come and you sort of hit the panic button. When COVID hit, it was certainly a challenging thinking process that you go through, because you'd never been with the pandemic before, so you didn't know what was going to happen. And certainly, I think everyone went home for a month, and everyone re-engage with their fitness and re-engage with their family, and learned how to be inside of a house again and not travel around the world. So, but then once that March sort of April period went, about mid-April, things started firing up again for us, and it we just stayed focused, and that's our big forte, I guess. We just stay focused. We know exactly where we're going, and we keep our standards extremely high, and we take care of people. So it's a pretty simple, recipe, really.
Richard, I know that if we put a rod and reel in your hand, you're a happy man, particularly if there's probably some level of sport fish on the end of that. Outside of fishing, what do you see in the future for yourself? Do you see yourself continuing with the Kapalua idea? Is there a dream beyond that?
I do. I mean, I'm very fortunate to work with an amazing team. It's myself and I think it's 9 others or 8 others. We're a small team, but everyone's got their role, and it's an efficient team. And honestly, I love going to work every day. I do work with amazing people. They're friends as well as workmates. Everyone's rowing in the same direction. No one goes off the reservation, so to speak. I guess when you start a new business, you have a vision. This is the type of business I want. This is the type of environment I want. This is the type of culture I want. And we just, none of us allow anyone to step outside the sideline. We pull them back in and say, that's not the way we do it here. And if someone wants to go outside the sideline continually, that's okay. We just can't be together, because we're committed to how we're going to be. So how does that translate into my future? I guess that, I mean, what are you going to retire and do what? I mean, I just don't see the point. I hope I'm active and riding my bike and being fit and mentally fit and so forth when I'm 90. I really do. I don't see any reason to stop. I think I'm fitter today than I was in my 40s, so I don't see why I can't be fitter in my 70s than I am today. I don't see why that can't be. So I know being passionate, I'm lucky in that I have found my way into something that I just love to do. And I think the creativity of it is a big, big thing. When you and I work on websites, it's wonderful to collaborate with people like yourselves who are creative people, and it brings that side of you out. I love that.
I would have to say that kind of work with a client is where the juices start flowing. When both parties are really passionate about the outcome, it's not just a function, but you actually are taking a pride in delivering some creative piece. Is there anything else about the experience with Excite Media that you've enjoyed that has continued to see you working? I know that you've formed good relationships with some of our key staff.
Well, I have. The boys came down and did that photo shoot, that video that's playing in the background there. We entertained them for a couple of days, went to dinner. I mean, you just got wonderful people working there, Andrew. You're friendly. You're along the same lines as we are. You've great service. You've got great systems. Your creative side. I mean, it's just a pleasure. And that's why, the work we're doing at the moment with you, how I referred that major client, that they're paying your bill, not me. And I just said, look, I 100% recommend this is where you go. And I've referred someone else to you that's going to do an Airbnb up in west of Brisbane, up in the ranges there. I said, got to go to Excite Media. Got to see Andrew there. They'll take care of you, and I can do that with confidence. And when you refer anyone, if someone's referring to us, you want to be able to say, that they'll be taken care of, and they won't have their phone call not returned or things like that. I mean, that would be a disaster. So you guys, we trust you, and we'll no doubt be revamping our website. I mean, we've done 2 websites with you in the period of 6 years. For some people, that would be probably a stretch to think. I mean, we had a website before we came to you, and it wasn't what I wanted. And we came to you and we developed what we thought at the time was going to be, that was great. Within a couple of years, we said, no, that's not good enough now. We revamped it and doubled down and did it again. And I believe very much in that. That's the old real estate where we had photo cards in the window and dead flies and all that sort of stuff. Thank God that's gone. now we work on a level 4 of a building. We don't have street frontage. I haven't had street frontage since the mid-90s, which is a stretch for people to think about. But since we got away from the street, we've gone from strength to strength over those years. So
it is a reality. And I think some of the values that we have, quality, consistency, attention to detail, they're the things that you can actually refer people to. Tie that all together with creativity, and then you've got a great outcome. Richard, I want to finish on a question that I gave you a little bit of time to prepare. Think back to that 20-year-old, whether he's going to go down the golfing career or he's going the path that he is. Is there one piece of advice that you would like to reach back into the past and give yourself that might have shaped things a little bit for where you are today?
Well, I saw the question, Andrew. I must admit, those sort of questions, they always seem like they should be in magazines or something, not being asked of me. But I've said recently, if you had $100 million in the bank, would your decision on that particular item be any different? Unfortunately, we make decisions a lot based on our hip pocket, and I don't think, for your long-term happiness, you should do that. You should always make decisions that sit with your values. That's why I love Kapalua, because I'm absolutely living my true values with how I want the people around me, how we want to take care of clients, how we want to be perceived by the public when they look at our website. I love the story of Steve Jobs, how he looked at every little detail, and in our website, I think it's a really good reflection of how we are internally. So, I guess just looking at all the detail, making sure everything is as perfect as you can make it, would be something that I would have focused on a bit earlier in my career. And I would have perhaps identified my values, and I would have lived those values a bit earlier, instead of being blown around a bit by the wind with, not wanting to upset that person, or, doing something with that person and not really, or a client, I'll take that business on, but I don't really like that person. Like we just don't do that anymore. Every one of our clients we love. And that's when they come to talk to me about a project, they're interviewing me, but the reality is, and I tell them this, I'm interviewing them as well to make sure that we are aligned. And I'm sure you do the same in your business.
It's a great way to find whether there's a good partnership in the future. Richard, thanks very much for joining us on the Morning Kick. We've got a lot of insights. Wish you well as you continue to grow Kapalua. I know January's been very busy for you. Let's hope that the rest of the year continues to be the same.
Thank you, Andrew.
Well, I think we've certainly learned a lot from the experience and also the values and creativity that Richard brings to the Kapalua brand. Do pop along and have a look at their website to find out a little bit more. And we'll look forward to joining you next week on The Morning Kick.